a large migration, or, well, possibly one of the villainous mutants that they've faced with teleportation powers. Yeah, I know. It's probably too much to hope for. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing Episode 3 of Gifted, eXodus. Ah, they did it with the X again. Come on, guys, you're better than this. Overall, though, there's still this running theme of persecution, because, of course, it's an X-related title. But they really touch home with it tonight in several scenes, and I have to say, the idea of what you will or won't do for your friends or family, and what you will or won't do for someone you care about, really comes to the forefront, which it should in any good X-Men series. And that's what this is, regardless of what the title is, or how many X's they throw into the middle of words. Although I will admit that maybe they were a little more manipulative with their emotional heartstring pulling when the little kid said, "Don't worry, you're going somewhere safe." That was really manipulative. For those of you that don't know, what I do here is I try to take apart stories, find out the hows and whys that we tell them. I review TV shows, movies, comics, and books as they come out, and do Throwback Thursdays every Thursdays, and theory videos on the what we learn on Sundays. If that sounds interesting, hit the subscribe button. But for now, let's really unpack what it means to tell the story that Gifted is telling. And it's a hard story to tell in this day and age. Let's be honest. There's a lot of buttons that could easily be pushed. I think the word is triggered, which is funny because that's what the Supergirl episode I just covered was called. But at the end of the day, what it really means is there are people that really do get persecuted. And sometimes telling stories about other people being persecuted allows us to set someone into that thought process that wouldn't normally be. But before we get too far down that rabbit hole, I also want to think about the fact that this is still a fantasy. Because let's be honest, the mutants have superpowers. The governments would be more likely to recruit them in the real world than shoot them. But let's get into details. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. So once again, they're doing pretty good at balancing an ABC storyline. We start off with a flashback of Lorna, and we learn that Polaris can fly in this world, which is pretty cool because, let's be honest, there's a connection to Magneto that we all really want to see. I do wonder, with all the talk of bloodlines and the idea of sibling mutants, if we're going to talk about her and her siblings and her father. And as badass as the episode was, and as badass as Lauren ripping the actual door off the hinges, I have to say, how about you rip the collar off your neck with your magnetic powers? Just saying. That might be a good first step, but okay. Overall, the episode was all about the same thing that there always are. What it means to be persecuted, what it means to be cut down. And you know what? With this younger generation coming up, the idea of I just sent it in a text, I just put it on Instagram, I just put it on Facebook, is so easy. And it's so hard to stay away from those things. So when I see that the entire family has to worry about whether or not they can be tracked, because just random people on the street might form a lynch mob, you have to realize that how easy it is to track people in this day and age. And exactly what that Patriot Act expansion is kind of got a little weirder, because in the van, that young kid was just another person with the X gene. And remember, I warned about this. This is the escalation that I worry about. In the real world, there are laws, and yeah, there are racist people. But the laws themselves are not racist. And so I do question whether or not Sentinel Services should be able to arrest someone just for having the X gene. Especially when we went so far in the first episode to showcase the fact that the new Patriot Act actually says it escalates if you use your power in commission of a crime. But before we get to Mr. Strucker, we also have Blink's training, and the fact that the training seems to be pretty generic. Figure out something you love, hold on to that, emotions are what charges. I figure that we're going to have to do things like that because realistically, unlike the comics, we don't have a lot of time to train people, so we're going to need to do some generic training. We then have the mom running to her brother. And these two stories dovetail rather nicely with the question of what do you do for those you love. At the end of the day, her brother wants to help, but he's got that soft bigotry of, oh, well, those others are a problem. And at the same time, he doesn't know how to use his ability, his friendship, his alliances to help even his niece and nephew. And you know what? I'm an uncle. I'll tell you right now, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my niece and nephew. But at the same time, I don't know if I could go against the law, if I could risk jail time. I guess I should just be happy I'm not in that situation. Or a worse one, because the father ends up, like I said, in a van with a tracker on him. Sentinel services are assholes. And there's a mother and daughter that are being trapped, and if he goes through with this, will be captured by Sentinel services, and God knows what will happen to them as they disappear into a black site. Now, like I said, it was a little emotionally manipulative there. But back to Mom and the kids for a second. A whole lynch mob forms around them. All people that she went to school with, people who know them. And they want to hunt the mutants, which are our main characters. And we end up with this problem of, now, the gifted mutants don't want to fight to the death. They want to get out of this without bloodshed. But how hard can you fight when someone's trying to kill you without returning lethal force? Now, this is where it gets interesting, because we have a gray area now, one that comes up all the time in X-Men comics. You see, people are afraid of mutants because of what they could do. But think about what they did to get out of it without killing someone. A mutant telepath slash empath going by the name Dreamer implanted her own memories of a romantic rendezvous with another character into another character's mind without asking permission. That's like the textbook definition of mental rape. That is like the textbook example of what you're afraid of when people have powers. I mean, really, these gifted individuals can do anything. The boy can rip things apart. The girl is a matter manipulator, for God's sake. Yeah, she primarily uses air. I mean, we have a teleporter. We have someone throwing electrical slash light photonic energy around. These are some pretty scary things. And that's before you get to Polaris, who is a master of magnetism, like her father. These people do some scary things. And now remember, this isn't just prejudice against someone because of how they were born. It's prejudice out of fear. And that fear is that someone could do something like, say, implant a false memory in your head without asking permission. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of mutant registration or mutant persecution. I'm not a fan of bigotry of any style. And Sentinel services aren't even close to gray. They are downright evil in the way they're doing things. But think for a second. If you couldn't trust the thoughts in your own mind because there was a telepath out there that could implant memories, how would that change your whole thinking? And how different would it be when it's that other guy's family compared to when it's your family that had those special abilities? You don't have to answer that in the comments, but just food for thought. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions of the episode, though. I thought it blew me away. This is obviously going to be a good run. At least I'm hoping so. If you liked this show and enjoy me doing reviews of it, hit that like and share button for me. So far, I'm enjoying it, and I hope that you like my reviews as we talk about all the things that are exceptional about it. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. What I'm trying to do here is build up a community where we can talk about things like this. The hows and the whys of storytelling, and very particularly in this case, the why is very important in this day and age. Because the why is, why we tell this story is because we need to be careful when we see someone that's dangerous, when we see someone that is not like us, when we see someone we're afraid of. Do we let that fear rule us? Or do we do what we know is right? Thanks for walking with me through the heart of the story we tell.